It is time now for the Velshi and Rule Tax Cut Tracker. Today, we are looking at how the tax breaks fit into the overall economy. Right now, the Congressional Budget Office forecasts an economic slowdown, thanks in part to President Trump's trade war. The Congressional Budget Office, with this groovy 70s logo, is a nonpartisan federal agency. Nonpartisan. It provides independent analysis of economic issues to support members of Congress in evaluating the cost and economic impact of legislation. The CBO projects that the U.S. economy will expand by 3.1% this year. That is down from a previous forecast of 3.3%. 2018's growth is largely attributed to companies being flush with cash thanks to the recent tax cuts, combined with a surge in trading ahead of the new tariffs. So sort of fake spending. This situation is not sustainable, which is why when you look to 2019, the CBO holds its previous projection. The economy slowing, well, it's growing by 2.4%. The rate of growth is slowing. And in 2020, the projection slips to just 1.7%. And that is not all. Just keep in mind, the president keeps on saying 4, 5, 6%. These are the numbers we're actually talking about. The CBO has fresh projections now for the U.S. budget deficit, topping $1 trillion by fiscal year 2020. That is up, by the way, from $804 billion in 2018 and $981 billion in 2019. The spiking deficit, courtesy of $1 trillion in tax cuts and roughly $300 billion in new spending increases. And despite numerous promises from this administration, those tax cuts are not saving most American families money either. They are helping the rich get richer. Now, let me just show this to you because this is fact. Families earning $25,000 or less will save on average $60 on their federal tax returns this year. Those making between $48,600 and $86,100 will save on average $930 a year. Families in the top 1% of earners will save an average of $51,000. Let me just run this by you. $60, $930, $51,000. Not all bad news. There's some good news from the CBO. Wage growth is finally projected to climb above 3%. At the current rate of 2.7%, any real gain in wages is being wiped out by a strong inflation rate of 2.9%. So at the moment, the average wage earner is in negative. All right, joining us now is Heather Long. She is the Washington Post economics correspondent. Heather, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. There are lots of reasons why all those facts that I just stated may be true, and lots of discussions about who you can hold responsible for it. But we can't even really get the White House to accept that those are actually the facts.
That's true. I saw your interview with Kevin Hassett, the top economist at the White House yesterday. He said the same things to me. He kept saying that wage growth will pick up to 4%.
4%, he said.
Yes, right now it's 2.7. Very disappointing for this stage of the recovery. As you noted, that's being totally wiped out by inflation, which is 2.9% right now. And they continue to say at the White House, and President Trump says this, that growth will be 3% for a decade. So for the next 10 years, the Congressional Budget Office and pretty much every other independent forecaster from Wall Street or in academia or other government agencies, they are all saying 3% about there this year, but that's just a sugar high. It fades in 2019 and certainly beyond.
We want it to be the case. I want what Kevin Hassett says about wages to be true.
Absolutely.
I want 3% plus growth. Like we're all on the same side of this. We want it to happen.
Absolutely, but one of the issues with the tax cuts actually cut the taxes for corporation, and they hope that it trickles down. We know that the tax cuts have not yet paid for themselves, and Steve Mnuchin is already talking about tax cut 2.0. If growth slows, how can the administration argue that these tax cuts are justified?
Well, the key thing to watch here is capital spending. So their whole argument hinges on businesses going out, spending more on factories, on equipment, on new processes, new intellectual property, and that's supposed to translate into faster growth and into better making workers more productive. And then the companies should want to pay them more if the workers are making more objects every hour. They should be more valuable to the company. It's a long shot. It could potentially happen, but again, almost every forecaster is saying we'll probably see faster business spending this year, but they just don't expect it to last, particularly with this trade war escalating.
Right. The other effects of the tax cut we could have and did predict would happen, the buyback of shares and things like that. The trade war imposes new problems on the economy. But let's just say that with unemployment at the low levels that it's at and with job growth at the relatively strong levels it's at, that workers could see this wage growth. What's the worry about wage growth versus inflation? Because I've had people tell me you shouldn't conflate the two. Well, regular people have to conflate the two, because if you spend money and things are more expensive, then that does wipe out the advantage you have of wage growth.
Exactly. I think what's particularly alarming about the current inflation situation, everyone's talking about energy. Larry Kudlow, another top economic advisor, tried to say, well, gas prices are up, so that's what's really driving inflation. But if you look into the inflation numbers, the key numbers actually shelter. Rent is going up. And for working class Americans, that's the biggest part of their paycheck is going to rent every month. So when we see that hit for almost 4% of inflation year over year, that's a hard number for a lot of families to balance in their budget and make work. They're going to need to see much bigger wage increases to help cover that.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.